As all of you already know, this is a project, InSPIRES, where we are...
This is Brill. I'm never sad to see you. I just wondered why.
I'm going to just rewrite.
Yeah. Oh, right. Can we go through? First of all, my initial thoughts are brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you.
Sorry, I think there's somebody who has the mic on.
We just get it out of the way. Trying to show the whole
Can
team.
you switch off the mic,
I
please?
sent it out.
Everybody
And
hearing what
the
I'm
teachers
saying.
have come back saying it's great. The two partner teachers.
Okay, great. Seems to be solved. So as I was saying, welcome to this webinar of InSPIRES. InSPIRES, as you all know, is a European project where we are exploring together how we can build new models of science shops by getting more inspired by responsible research and innovation. And basically, we thought that to start with these webinars, this is one of the first ones. We had already a couple of them, but for the beginning, we thought that we should start with Norbert Steinhaus. One of the reasons is that we had the pleasure to share with him a big project on responsible research and innovation, which was RRI tools, where we already started to reflect on all these issues. And since then, we haven't seen each other for a while now, and we thought it would be a very good opportunity to share the floor with him and to explore together with him how he envisaged this new model of science shops, and in particular with the relationship with CSOs, which is a very important part of responsible research and innovation. So Norbert is a board member of the Bonn Science Shop since 1990. He has been involved in the world of science shops and participatory research for longer than that even. Maybe he can tell us later since when. And he is, for that reason, the coordinator of the Living Knowledge Network. And as you know, we have a very interesting appointment with this network in a couple of weeks in Budapest. So before we start the webinar, we would like to invite the ones who haven't already done to share your name and institution in the chat. Some of you already did. We can see also that Marta Valentina is sharing that they are in. Okay, they cannot see the screen, but they are in. And the other ones, if you want to share, we can see a lot of people who have already said hello. So just we open the floor to everybody to introduce yourself, just your name and your institution, as the other ones are doing. And meanwhile, we see each other's names. We can now give the floor to Norbert to inspire us with his talk on the role of CSOs in science shops. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Rosina. Thank you very much to the InSPIRES team for inviting me to talk to you here. I hope I get through clearly with my speak. I'm sitting in my kitchen because it's a home office day for me. Yes, so this year I'm working for the Science Shop quite a long time. As you said, Rosina, it's 30 years now. I had this year I had my 30-year job anniversary. So yeah, so Science Shop is somehow my life. I never thought that I would retire on working on the same job for such a long time. I won't talk much about Bonn Science Shop here because I was asked to talk about science shops more in general with a focus on civil society engagement. As far as I understood, I'm allowed to give a short presentation here, and then we go through a couple of questions. My time is not limited. I don't know how much you intend to talk. So the problem always is once you give me the floor, I won't stop talking. So please allow me just to begin with some slides, and I will start quite generally about.
Okay, just if I can introduce some words now. Your presentation is supposed to be about 15, something like this, 15 minutes or around that. And then we will give the floor to the audience for questions for 30 minutes. And I'm being asked by ISGlobal to mention that if you don't mind, all this webinar will be recorded. So just to let everybody know that it will be recorded if everybody agrees. Okay, thanks.
I'm fine with it, yeah. Okay, so this means I can start now. Okay, as far as I see, there are some colleagues in from all around the world. So already, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So I think we're spread around the globe. So that's really nice to see how far the idea of Science Shop now has spread, and that there's a big interest all around. So please allow me. So do you see my screen? Just give me a second. You see my screen? Just asking because I don't.
Yes.
Okay, because I don't see it. That's a bit of a problem. Okay,
We can
so
see, but we need you to put the presentation mode.
yeah, so I have to get rid of this. Damn. So okay, so that's a full screen now with the presentation.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. I don't get rid of this one, so I'm really confused a bit now, because I want to definitely I want to see my screen, but the only thing I can do is leave the meeting. Anyway, so what about the citizens, Science Shop, and civil society organizations or citizens in general? So when we're talking about society, society comes up with a couple of requests, and please allow me to give you the picture of agriculture because this is my scientific background. I studied agriculture the last century, but as you can see, when we talk about agriculture, when we talk crops, when we talk about wheat, there you can see a couple of requests, and that's the same with civil society. There's not one request, but there are a couple of requests coming. To answer these requests, of course, there are resources. We have researchers, and we produce knowledge. So, but what about those who are only indirectly linked and have their specific requests? What about these civil society organizations and their non-for-profit needs? So we have to produce knowledge. We have to produce knowledge, and of course, what we all know is mainstream research. And you can see this is a quite boring landscape. But during the last years, some additional tools, some additional approaches have the stage. Community-based research, science shops, participatory action research, and so on and so on. And if you draw, if you compare it with agriculture again, when this ecological agriculture has come up, everybody has said these guys are fools, they are strange, what does this have to do with the needs of agriculture? But in the meantime, it was recognized that this specific ecological production creates biodiversity, opens up the genetic pool, etc., etc. And that's the same with approaches which leave a bit the mainstream research and start to work with the knowledge which exists in civil society. So this is, as one of the examples mentioned before, science shops. How do science shops work? And maybe
He had this with himself.
So excuse me, will you please? Thank you. As you might have already heard, we are talking about two different approaches of science shops. We have science shops which are university-based and science shops which are non-university-based, but you can also divide the idea of science shops in two different streams. Working with the basic idea, when questions from civil society organizations are taken up, or from other stakeholders, when they are rephrased to scientific research topics that then will be worked on by students or a researcher at a university. This research in the end will lead to a report on it or any other product, a publication which is made for the use, for the benefit of the client. But throughout the years, different ideas, advanced ideas have developed. When the science shops take over the role of a civil society contact point and starts mediating the interactions between research, between science and civil society. So by this, they are able to use various methodologies, and I'm sure you heard about a lot of them: citizen science, service learning, co-creation as one of the best buzzwords these days. They're organizing science cafes, focus groups, or scenario workshops. And last but not least, they are at the heart of developing training and education for specific topic and needs on both sides, on the researchers' side and on the side of civil society partners. But when it comes now a bit more narrowing to community partners, what we seek when working with a science shop, we are looking for mutual benefits. And of course, addressing partners and working with partners from civil society, we have to consider that the goals and processes are mutually determined, so that there's no focus and no precision or narrowing by one of the sides. Partners in a real partnership, and we're talking about partnerships in the connection between science shops and civil society and research and civil society. We share visions, we share resources, but we also share the risks. I won't talk about responsible research and innovation now, but this is also addressed on the European level. Communities' interests and needs have to be considered, and the variety of roles and responsibilities have to be taken into account. So getting into sustainable partnerships, we have to talk about expectations, and these expectations have to be realistic on both sides. Scientific researchers definitely have to understand what is the need, what is the request, what is the problem on the partner side, on the civil society side, on the citizen side, on the stakeholder side. But also the other way around, civil society organizations have to understand and learn about the limits of research. Not every question can be answered because of scientific rules. There might be a time request and that the civil society organization needs a fast answer, but when it has to be forwarded into a research unit working with students, you have to consider the academic year. So there are a lot of restrictions, a lot of maybe not barriers, but aspects to consider when it comes to a cooperation between these different stakeholder groups. Understanding students' capacities. Students are learners, so they are even allowed to make mistakes. But all in all, we are talking about trust and accountability, and this is, of course, always meant for both sides. When working with these civil society organizations, or when getting into a partnership, into a research partnership, especially working with civil society organizations, always should be considered as an endeavor to learn for involved actors. There's no problem about a failure. A failure is a value. A failure is a starting point for improvement. And therefore, getting into this cooperation, it's not using one approach, one tool, one format, because of the specific interests and the different settings. The diversity of format and tools available is a real value in the cooperation, and it should be used or recombined and tailored to the specific needs. Especially of importance here is to create spaces and arenas in which this exchange can take place. It must be a place where everybody feels comfortable, so it doesn't make sense to just focus on a university lecture room to invite civil society partners to talk about the possible research. You have to go to their places. You have to find a public place, a community hall or whatever, to exchange with the partners so everybody feels safe in this environment. So create the space and the arena to cooperate. It's not easy to put into practice, but there are some aspects to consider, which are definitely important for the cooperation. One is transparency. So all aspects, all steps in the process have to be transparent to all partners. There shouldn't be any hidden agenda. Every step should be clear. Of course, when you're looking into the research integrity is at the heart of the activities. Aspects of data and privacy protection to be considered. There should be honest commitment. Never, we had a discussion about that yesterday. I hold what I promise, or I will only promise what I can keep as a promise to perform. So there are two different aspects getting into this. In fact, no particular interest shall dominate the processes. So, of course, a researcher might enter into this cooperation with his or her specific view, but it's a cooperation. It's a co-creation process. It's creating the solution for the expressed problem, described problem, the request together. So, and therefore, it's important that no particular interest dominates the processes. Transparency, again, stakeholders have to be kept informed, and all processes and outcomes have to be well communicated. And when possible, or it should be also considered to review and evaluate on the processes and the activities performed, just to learn for future engagement. But of course, crucial questions come in at this point. Legitimacy, who can decide on what, who has what kind of knowledge, who should be invited, who should join the process. Of course, there are critical factors when it comes to partnerships with civil society organizations. Probably not only with them, it's a general issue of partnerships. What is predictable in this cooperation? Is there an unpredictability there? You have to be aware that things might happen which influence your cooperation. Of course, when you want to set up a research with a community partner and you choose the partner, and it might happen that you do not find the right partner, or when it's bottom-up driven, you do not find the right researcher. So it comes to an unsuccessful pairing. We're also talking about skills. We're talking about capacity, specific research, specific communication and co-creation processes need certain capacities. You have to be aware that these capacities are there among the partners. Otherwise, it's necessary to provide a training or a teaching before getting into this partnership. Calendar conflicts, I already mentioned that. Academic year always is an issue when it comes to work with students. Some partners in a research, especially when the research in a citizen science project is researcher driven, and civil society organizations are invited. So is there a need of compensation for the time people spend voluntarily in this cooperation process? How do you recognize, how do you value their work? You have to be clear about roles, you have to be clear about rules, and of course there's always the possibility that there is a confusion about roles or rules are broken. And partners, especially in a long-term project, at a certain point might lose their interest in cooperation. Conflicts might show up between partners, and when money runs out, especially on the researcher side, this might end the cooperation. So there are always some critical factors around when it comes to cooperation with partners of any kind. So you have to take your time to build the relationship. You have to build trust, and you have to build trust from the very early stage on. You have to learn how to talk to each other. There are aspects of power, privilege, there are economic inequalities you have to consider, you have to learn about when you want to build trust. Maybe there's a hidden agenda. So are there underlying reasons for establishing a partnership? From which organizational context do the partnership members come from? Do you have to consider the more informal structure of a civil society organization when you want to run research? How do you you have to make sure that there is a fairness in the exchange of resources among partners. So it's not okay. This is one of the points you always discuss when it comes to citizen science. Citizens invited to join a citizen science project should not be invited as single or as purely data collectors. So share knowledge, share resources. Of course, you can invite community partners to the campus to share expertise with faculty and students, which is a good learning process on the faculty side, but also go out to the communities. Go into the environments, into the working environment, the living environment of your community partner to better understand what the issue is about. And be accurate, be clear, so that everybody understands what it is about you're cooperating on. Responsible research and innovation. Here we're coming back to that point. It makes sense to involve civil society organizations into the research and innovation process. Although some difficulties which might occur, but as said, we can learn from that. But civil society can take different roles. They can put their specific knowledge and expertise into a research process. They can be co-designers for a research topic. They can define a specific research question. They can work on a regional level for specific issues. And here at this point, and in this moderation between civil society organizations and their knowledge, science shops can enter the stage. But when you look into the European research support, you might have seen that citizen science is very big on the agenda. They should not be just data collectors. Civil society organizations can be co-researchers. They can interpret science shop research fields. They can contribute to the research with their everyday life skills, with their lay knowledge, which is not meant in a negative way. The most important question about working with civil society organizations is how to generate requests. How do I get the questions? How can I have some input to my own work? How can I, science shop worker, come up with real life problems? And the first thing is to introduce this opportunity to local community groups. Here in this case, as examples mentioned, patient groups, health insurance companies, health services, even to researchers. Show them that you are there, that you are mediating the process, that you want to link research with civil society needs, that you're listening to problems, and that you will transfer them to respective partners who can work on this issue. For this, you can use existing tools to collect open questions, or you can customize them to your specific needs. For example, if you have a public event, you can just put on a blackboard, a pinboard, or letterbox where participants fill a form or just freely express their topic. You can use online dialogue tools. Facilitated during a participatory event like a science cafe or a public presentation can help to underline the possibility to express requests. One issue is that you have to make clear when you want to introduce that into research. It's about real-life problems, and you want to develop solutions for them. And of course, to work on this, you have to provide the clients, the participants have to provide contact details for the further processing of their requests. It's nothing we are going to work on anonymously. So therefore, the intake of the question is very important. And then, of course, the most difficult aspect starts to find the question behind the question and check what kind of information the person is asking for, or what kind of knowledge they already have, or what hypotheses they have. And then once you get these questions, and hopefully you will get a lot of questions, you have to select, edit, and translate these questions to be further elaborated. When you have an agreement with a research unit, a specific researcher, it might be helpful in a starting point, in the first activity, to select questions according to the expertise of the researcher who is willing to cooperate. To support you in these activities, of course, there are a lot of tools available, such as the Living Knowledge Toolbox, which is available on the Living Knowledge website, on the website of the International Science Shop web network. And what you can find there is a quite rough structure, as you can see, some basic information about community-based research, how to raise public awareness, how to prepare a science shop project, and how to deal with publication of a science shop project result. It's a growing database, and there are, of course, a couple of other databases with tools you might consider when you're going to work in a civil society organization relation for research. Don't hesitate. Once you produce something, we are always happy to share your findings, your information on the Living Knowledge website. So some more general, in the last part, in the last 2 minutes maybe, I want to go through two project approaches. One is of Bonn Science Shop. And as we are not a university-based science shop, we cannot really rely on working with students on solving a specific issue. Our requests or our projects are mainly developed on general societal challenges. In this case, in this project, which is called Nature into Gray Zones, the societal challenge was to boost the key objectives of nature protection, especially in areas where this was so far little discussed. And therefore, in this project, we developed a campaign for unsealing urban industrial areas, and within this, we try to raise awareness among companies, company representatives, and citizens for biodiversity conservation in urban areas and make them actors in this field. We brought together business, civil society, and local administration in 3 pilot cities in Germany to choose spaces, to choose areas which no longer are needed as sealed spaces. So we just broke up the seal of the ground and re-greened them together with local community foundations, which in the end ensure that there is sustainability, that there's an ongoing caretaking of what was developed during this activity. And although we only started in 3 cities with 10 companies in each city, we now have a big demand of more companies who like the idea and who wanted to get advice to do something for biodiversity in their specific region. A second example, which was quite interesting, it was a school in a rural region in Belarus. They have this city of Sitovo is close to a nature protected area, and the students or the pupils went out just to make an inventory of local plants, of local species, to present that to their community, to their neighborhoods, to other villages which are in the environment of this nature protected area. And what they also did, they collected old tools and developed a local history museum. So it's all based on school activities, because there was a need not to lose, let me say, the heritage of the area, and therefore together with school teachers, but also researchers from the city of Minsk, they developed activities and an exhibition at this little museum you can see in the picture right, the bottom right. So what also might be interesting for you, and I don't know if Rosina already had told you about the project called Enrich, just to mention it here at this point, all information is available on the Living Knowledge website. There's a tool available for educators who wish to embed responsible research and education in their education curricula. It's a useful tool. It can be adapted to all kind of scientific disciplines. And as you might have learned before, responsible research and innovation means engaging all kind of stakeholders from the beginning of the research process into the activities. So last slide, science shops and responsible research and innovation. How does this fit in this policy framework? Science shops are best practice to responsible research and innovation because they contribute to education. They respond to concrete needs. They are open. They are reflective. Their results are freely accessible. So science shops live engagement with and for society. Thank you very much for your attention. That was my introduction. I think I took a bit more than just 15 minutes. I hope you can apologize. Okay, so what do I have to do now? I have to give.
Well, thank you very much, Norbert. It was a pleasure to see the effort of summarizing 30 years of experience into 20 minutes talk. Not easy, but we could learn a lot. Even if we heard you before, we still learned new things today. So I guess this is shared by all the audience. Now we would like to leave room to the audience to ask questions through the chat. And as we see them on the chat, we can invite you to ask the question directly by putting on the microphone. So are there any questions in the audience? Meanwhile, they are maybe thinking about questions perhaps we want to raise. I don't know if Josep may have any question to ask.
Some of the science shops of the InSPIRES projects are new science shops. So one of the questions that have appeared in different consortium meetings and different talks that we have had is how can a new science shop make a kind of a good reputation to the local environment? Just how to publish your science shop, how to make advertisement just to collect and gather the feedback of CSOs and so how do you start? No, which is the 2 or 3 tips to make you well known for CSOs?
So I think the best way to start is to start with one project, because once you have results, you can communicate these results. you have something to show, to demonstrate. You can work with media, you can work with your own communication channels, you can organize events about this specific topic. One of the serious problems when starting a science shop and it doesn't matter if it's a university context or an NGO context or a setting outside of the university, is that the fields of activity are too broad, and usually you are not so well equipped with staff to work on the issues. So this of course was also our learning in the very beginning, although this is now many years ago, is to concentrate, to build up expertise, to make you a VIP in this field. Yeah, so just it's not an easy process. Maybe today it's a bit easier because Science Shop get a good recognition on the regional and national or international level. But for example, it took us 10 years to be recognized by the city of Bonn, by the administration of the city of Bonn. We've been working with in projects and with a few person staff, but before the city accepted us as a partner, we had to work quite a long time, and we had a lot of public events and activities before. Bonn is very conservative, just to mention this here. And it took us even longer to be recognized by Bonn University because they didn't want us in the very beginning when we started. Nowadays, it might be a bit easier if you already have support from a bigger organization like a university. Yeah, so if a university wants to set up a civil society contact point, of course you can also rely on certain resources. But my advice would be start focused. Yeah, start with a certain topic. Start to identify people who are interested in the idea on all sides, on administration side, on researcher side, on civil society organization side. I think with InSPIRES you're focusing a bit on health issues, which is already a good approach, because from our experience, health addresses many people, and people are always willing to share and to learn in this field. Is it?
Perfect.
Again, just a microphone thing.
Thanks.
How science shops are usually funded is one of the questions. I think there is no usually when we talk about funding of science shops. Our starting point have been voluntary work. So in the first 3 years of our activity, we just sat together in the evening, answering questions and trying to identify the experts to answer these questions. And that at a certain point, we in Bonn decided not only to react on requests, but also become proactive. And that's where the idea for the first projects were born. And then, and this continues until today, a big part of our work is project funded. And therefore, of course, with all the problems you have around project funding, it's only a certain period of time you get the money. You always have to start writing the next proposal once you got the first grant. So there's a certain risk in it. You always have to run at least a couple of projects, but starting with one project is definitely a well experienced approach. We already had the opportunity to develop a paid service. It started from one of our projects, so it's we're doing the research and answering requests. We're having a paid service, and part of paid services we developed in the meantime is offering trainings. So if you have expertise in a certain field, and you will have expertise in mediation processes, in co-creation processes, share your expertise, offer trainings, invite people who are willing to learn, and of course you can create a certain support for your work from participation fees to these kind of workshops. A good opportunity is, of course, when you have a university in your background, when the university is willing to support the Science Shop activity. So in North Rhine-Westphalia, for example, a project recently started, a 5-year project to establish a Science Shop in 2 universities at 7 different campus places. So there's a strong commitment from these universities to support the establishment, and of course with the criteria, if it works, if it is for the benefit of the research organization, the students, but also civil society, they intend to continue. Just to give you the amount of money they put in, it's a 70% researcher and student assistance for this kind of work. It's a project, it's a funded project, but the university is willing to continue if it's successful. So different approaches: creating income, relying on projects, or institutional funding through a bigger organization.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. I don't see any other question on the chat, so I would like to see if our participants from outside Europe, we have Juanma with us, who is from Singapore, and we have Gabriela from Brazil. So I was wondering whether they would like to share with us what's going on in their countries regarding science shops and what they are doing in this field. I don't know if anybody wants to contribute. Juanma or Gabriela? Humana, sorry. Humana or Gabriela?
I would be really interested to learn about your approaches.
They don't seem to. Humana is saying on the chat, hello, but I guess perhaps he doesn't have a micro. And Gabriela seems not to be participating either, so perhaps we can change to another question. I was wondering, Norbert, about the level of participation. We all know the ladder of participation, and that an ideal level of participation that is also recommended by responsible research and innovation is collaboration. But do you see, perhaps in more technical or more basic research, for example, or in other sorts of contexts, the need to establish a different level of communication that is not necessarily as high as collaboration?
Of course, it's a difficult question when you start working with civil society organizations and not immediately working on a request, on a specific single request. Then of course you come in with your own agenda, and this is a challenge. We had it yesterday in a meeting with community partners, just to step back and say, it's not us doing the work, it has to be them, otherwise it's their topic. Yeah, so we do not want to take over. So this is definitely a challenge when you go into a community cooperation, not to take over, and also to give the signal or to communicate that you do not want to take over. Yeah, so it's very easy because you're coming from a science shop, you're coming from a university, you're in a fixed position, and then they expect that you do the work. Yeah, so they're bringing in their ideas, they're exchanging their ideas, but getting from that point of communication to a cooperation or even a collaboration is difficult for both sides. It's also difficult for community partners, because it's so easy to lean back and say, okay, you're the expert, you have time, it's your work, so do it. But this is not our idea. because it creates a different commitment and a different understanding of the solution if you just lean back and you get something delivered. And therefore it's always a challenge to climb to the next step of the ladder of participation. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I think we can continue in Budapest because it's a difficult issue. Yeah. I can see that we've had answers from our colleagues from abroad. Humana and Gabriela already answered. They both say that there is not a lot of activity in the field of Science Shop in their local environment, but Gabriela says she will be in Budapest, so we can keep on talking about that with her. And then Anne-Sophie from ISGlobal asks for a question, so we give the floor to Anne-Sophie now. Hello, Anne-Sophie.
Well, yes, I am. Yes, I am Anne-Sophie. I am.
Hello, Leo.
Sorry. No, sorry, Norbert. Thank you very much, Rosina, and the organizers, and everybody. Norbert, you said something about when you are generating or seeking for that question, the CSO question that will start it all, that sometimes you have to look for a hidden question. And you said that hidden question, the question that might be behind the explicit question, that hidden question is sometimes related with a local knowledge. And I really like that idea. If you could say something else about it.
Maybe you've heard this example already from Henk, a colleague from Groningen. He does that as an exercise when it comes to summer schools, and I think this is a very good exercise. They got a request from patients which need caretakers which live still in their home, but they need somebody to get them out of bed in the morning. So some social caretaker has to come and help them to get up, to get washed, so that they can start and live their day on their own. And these people start to complain that the caretaker is coming later and later every morning. So that's the problem. So what's the research question behind that problem, if you want to have it as a research? And of course, if you think a while about it, you cannot answer it from your desk. You have to talk to the people. You have to go out. You have to sit together with them and try to find out if it's a psychological problem. Yeah, so that these people, that these caretakers coming into the home of the patients are the only social contact they have throughout the day. Yeah, so it has to do with psychology, some social interaction which they are missing, and of course if the people come later, they're missing it even more. It might have to do with a traffic issue, because there's a construction on the street, so that the caretaker has to drive longer to get to the patient. Yeah, so maybe it's just a logistics and mobilization issue you have to discuss. It can be a technical issue. The solution can be a technical issue once the patients are able to leave the bed on their own and at least walk around. So maybe a bed that automatically can be lowered so that they can get out of bed on their own might be a solution. So as you see, just from a simply expressed question, it's difficult to find the question behind the question, and therefore you have to talk to people and just to really identify what it is about. Is that a bit the direction of answer you expected?
Yes, well, of course it helps, Norbert. Thank you very much. It's true that when we ask in our first Science Shop example, when we try to take, I mean, the question they wanted us to solve or help the question we could all solve together, actually. It was nice to consider that there was hidden local knowledge that they were not making explicit, and it's just it's something I would love to know. Never stop being aware of those local knowledge that could be behind a hidden question or a hidden attitude towards the research in total. But thank you very much.
But local knowledge or individual knowledge, of course, is an aspect you always can consider, because nobody knows more about the problem than the people asking for help. And you have to put in a lot of investigation to get to the same aspect or to the same level of knowledge these people already have, because it all usually takes a lot of time before people are asking somebody else to help them. So they try it on their own first. Yeah. So they already, let's take it from our background here. They made an investigation on the internet. What kind of information is available there? They talked to their neighbors. They talked to other people who might have the same issue, might have the same problem, or already found a solution, but which probably doesn't fit to them. So they already have a lot of basic information, but they want to move on. They want to, but they really want to get a solution, which they didn't get from their own research. And therefore, interacting with them, therefore it's very important to get the level of knowledge they already have, to build on and to find the direction to further investigate. It saves time, and in the best, you also get some insights you probably haven't had before. There's one question I see about collaboration with low middle-income countries in terms of implementing science shops. I'm not really sure in which direction this question goes. What kind of collaboration do you mean? Some support, as it is running in InSPIRES now, to help local organizations in other countries to set up a science shop? So if answering very simply here, I would say InSPIRES is a good example to see what is going on there with countries beyond Europe. And there's a partner from Canada. She is setting up science shops in French-speaking Africa, and also established or helped to establish a science shop or science shop similar activity in Haiti. So this kind of cooperation exists based on the initiative of certain partners, focusing, of course, on the language which is spoken. I see InSPIRES, which has a Spanish-speaking focus. The colleague from Canada had a French-speaking focus. So these kind of collaborations exist. There's an interest also from European cooperation support to invite partners beyond Europe. And this does mean not to invite US, Canada, or South Africa, or Australia, but other countries to develop civil society interaction with research. I don't know if this helps here, but we can explore on that on your specific interest, and maybe we can find somebody in the country you're most interested in. And just Balint, you have 3 personal and a simple question.
No, they are combined actually. So they are simple and personal for you, and they are all related to this ideation that we also would like to roll out in the InSPIRES project. And the core idea behind this ideation to invite actually all interested science shops and similar entities to contribute to the Living Knowledge Network and help us to rewire the ecosystems around the Living Knowledge Network. So this invitation is really for everyone. The address of this ideation can be found in the chat. And you, Norbert, could help us in this to answer 3 simple questions of the ideation. One is, and they are all very personal, and you can give really short answers for each of them, or just associations maybe. So question 1 is, for you personally, what is the most important value of a science shop?
Personally, that voices are heard, that there's a possibility to leave ivory towers or silos or the own environment, to that it's stretching the comfort zone, which I always find challenging and exciting and not bad or uncomfortable. So this is and the science shop for me personally offered this opportunity to talk to people, to develop new ideas, to find new approaches and identify issues and topics which were not mainstream at that point, because nobody had an eye on them before. So I don't want to miss it. Yes, so just being open and reactive to things that are happening and talking to people and developing together with them ideas and possible activities for solutions.
Thanks. This was the long answer. Thanks very much. The second question.
This is what I said. Once you give me the floor, I don't stop talking.
I know you. Yeah. For you personally, what is the most inspiring example of community engagement? Which one is your favorite? Thinking now.
There are such a lot, so that therefore I'm not really sure just to highlight one, because when I look into the different activities and projects, I cannot really say. Besides the cooperation of science shops on the national and also on the international level, which is definitely a highlight in my professional work. Yeah, just to bring all these different organizations together in a network and find the level of communication and cooperation. There's a specific project which was really exciting here in Bonn. It was setting up an incubation workshop with beekeepers and addressing their specific and learn about their specific problems and developing scenarios, but also a research topic and development of a tool for the solution of a really serious problem in beekeeping. And I learned such a lot by cooperating or working with these people about beekeeping, but also about not to strictly follow an initial idea, but be open and flexible in the methodology to come to a solution to a problem. Yeah, so therefore 2 aspects of a specific project here in Bonn, and the other one, of course, the international cooperation of science shops, which probably will lead to your 3rd question.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. This is also very personal, and based on your 30 years of experience, also as kind of the main coordinator of this international network. So again, thinking personally, what do you expect from a science shop?
Okay, this is a very difficult question, because I don't expect anything from a science shop. Maybe I expect something from the people working in a science shop, that they are open to different methodologies, different approaches to serve best the needs which they identified or which are expressed by their community partners. Therefore, and you might know this from previous discussions we had, is I'm not in favor for one specific science shop methodology or science shop solution. That's why I always talk about two different approaches: the science shop methodology and the science shop as an institution. And in my understanding, the science shop as an institution can follow different paths, and there's not just one path how people working in this organizational context can serve societal needs. And therefore, I'm also quite open for science shops which are not university based. I'm open for science shops which work in very different environments, and this can be as an independent NGO. This can be as part of a city administration, although we never tried that before. This can be part of maybe even a company. I'm not really sure about it, and I think we're going to discuss that in the future because of the new science shop projects which are currently under funding of the European Commission. And one project, the partner project of InSPIRES, focuses on different science shop settings. And I think this is it's a living model. Yeah, so it's not only living knowledge, it's a living model, and it can be and should be adapted to the environment which serves best the needs. And therefore no expectations on a science shop except for answering civil society or stakeholders' requests, especially for those who don't have the means to fund research on their own.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thanks a lot. Is there any other question before we close? Only one last question. No? Okay.
Just let me know whenever you have a question. Please send me an email or call me or meet me at the Living Knowledge Conference. I'm happy to share contacts. I'm happy to share information, knowledge, and so please don't hesitate to come back to me if you have any questions.
Thanks a lot, Norbert. Actually, the name of our project, InSPIRES, also includes you a lot, because you have been inspiring all us from the very beginning of our task, which is not 30 years ago. So thanks a lot. We hope that this webinar has been useful and has given food for thought for all the people engaged in the webinar. And we also would like to thank ISGlobal for facilitating the platform, and Balin as well for helping in the organization from ESSRG in Budapest. So hope I don't forget anybody. Also thanks a lot to Josep Carreras, who has made a great effort in the organization, and hope to see you again in the next webinar that Josep will announce in the nearing future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for inviting me again. Yeah, so that's great. Thank you. See you soon, and hope to see all of you in Budapest.
Sure.
I'm from Tunis. You're from Tunis. I think you should ask me for the details about the French-speaking science shops or the science shop in French-speaking Africa. This is the colleague from Canada who's working on that. Maybe we can get you into contact if you're not the one who is already there in this cooperation. Okay, Rosina, you close. I have to shut up now.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
And greetings.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.